for joining us today. Oh, let's do the, Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Krishna Das Swami Namine. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namine. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Vishesha Shunyavadi Vasyati Nishatani. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Guru Maharaj ki jai, Thai Guru. So, Hare Krishna, dear devotees, Hare Krishna, Madhusudan Prabhu, Hare Krishna, everybody. Thank you very much for joining us. I'm going to seek your blessings so that we can please the Lord. Today we wanted to discuss two things, actually.
Sorry, Hare Bol, Nami.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. It's the disappearance day of Lokanath Das Goswami. And we have a tradition of talking about, at least try to understand a little bit about these great Vaishnavas when they come and they go. And today we'll do the same. We'll have a brief discussion on Lokanath Goswami and seek his blessings, very important personality. And then we wanted to move into the 8th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. So there's not much written about Lokanath Goswami because he was very humble and he forbade Krishnadas Kaviraj from writing anything actually. But Krishnadas Kaviraj still slipped in a little bit. This is one of the verses that he is mentioned very briefly. Sange Gopala Bhatta Dasa Raghunatha Raghunatha Bhatta Gosai Ara Lokanath.
When Rupa Goswami stayed at Mathura, he was accompanied by Gopal Bhatt Goswami, Raghunath Das Goswami, Raghunath Bhatt Goswami, and Lokanath Das Goswami.
So this is Lokanath Das Goswami. It's nice garland right across his face, jasmine flowers. And actually Narottam Das Thakur, his disciple, has written much about him. And this is one of the pranam mantras which we can recite together. Srimad Radha Vinodaika Seva Sampata Samantam Padnana Bhatmajam Srimad Lokanath Prabham Bhaje.
I worship the lotus feet of Srila Lokanath Prabhu, the son of Sri Padmanabh. He is a storehouse of single-minded service to the lotus feet of Sri Sri Radha Vinoda. Srila Lokanath Goswami was a personal associate of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and a great devotee of the Lord. He was a resident of the village named Talakhadi in the district of Yashohara in Bengal. Previously, he lived in Kachnapara. His father and mother's name was Padmanabh and Sita Devi, and his only younger brother was Pragalpa. From his early childhood, Lokanath was indifferent to family life. One day, giving up his mother and father and leaving his home behind forever, he went to Mayapur in Navadvip to take darshan of the holy feet of Gora. Mahaprabhu immediately told him to go and live in Vrindavan, telling him that it was his own intention to take sannyas very shortly and go there himself. Lokanath started to cry when he imagined the Lord with his beautiful girls and the distress the devotees would feel at his departure. When the Lord saw Lokanath's anxiety, he embraced him and consoled him with various spiritual instructions. Lokanath surrendered completely to him. When Bhugraba, who was Lokanath's paternal uncle and closest friend, saw how unhappy Lokanath was, he decided to accompany him to Vrindavan. The two companions walked through Rajmahal, Tajpur, Punia, Lucknow, and many holy places before finally arriving in Braj. Though he had come to Vrindavan on Mahaprabhu's order, he constantly felt intense separation from the Lord, shedding tears in his desire to see him again. When he got the news that Mahaprabhu had taken sannyas and then gone down to Puri and then to the southern pilgrimage, Lokanath hurried to southern Bharat in order to join him. When he arrived in the south, he heard that Mahaprabhu was no longer there, but had gone to Vrindavan. Lokanath immediately set off from Vrindavan, hoping to see the Lord there. But by the time he arrived, he heard that the Lord was now in Prayag. Lokanath was disappointed, but still determined to see the Lord, and decided to set off again for Prayag. This time, however, Mahaprabhu appeared to him in the dream, and told him to stop running around. and remain in Vrindavan and do his bhajan. Not long afterwards, Rup Sanatan, Gopal Bhatt Goswamis and others of the Lord's associates started coming to live in Braj. That association cheered him immensely. In the midst of the Goswamis, Sri Lokanath was the oldest. He was fully absorbed in prema. Lokanath Goswami wandered throughout all the 12 forests of Vrindavan in great ecstasy. In one of the forests there is a village named Umarao. There he stayed for some time on the banks of the Kishori Kund. He had a great desire to establish the worship of the deity and render service to Krishna in that way. Understanding Lokanath's aspiration to serve, Krishna himself appeared before him and offered Lokanath a vigraha, saying, "Worship this deity here." This deity's name is Radha Vinoda. After giving him this beautiful deity, the Lord suddenly disappeared. At this, Lokanath Goswami became stricken with anxiety. Seeing him absorbed in worry, Radha Vinod smiled and said, "Why have you brought me here? I have come here personally just to satisfy your purpose. What do you want from me? I live in the forest here near the village of Umrao. By this Kishori Kund you see before you, I make my residence. You must now give me something to eat quickly." Lokanath Goswami's joy knew no bounds. He floated in the waves of prema. After this, he prepared an offering for the Lord to eat. After offering fine rice on a fresh banana leaf to the deity, he experienced great ecstasy by offering his life at the lotus feet of the Lord.
Oops. This is the deity of Radha Vinodji. Actually, it's in Jaipur now. Very beautiful deity. Self-manifested.
So he was stunned by drinking the nectarian beauty of the Lord. After this, he offered a bed of flowers and made the Lord rest. Sri Lokanath Goswami made this place his home. Local villagers and cowherd men wanted to construct a bhajan kutir for him, but he refused to accept it. In order to protect the deity, he prepared a cloth bag which he would keep around his neck at all times. Sri Radha Vinoda became like a jeweled necklace around the neck of Lokanath Goswami. The cloth bag was his temple. This was Lokanath Goswami's practice until the day he disappeared from this earth, and is an example of the strict vairagya he maintained. With great care, he always stayed in the association of the Goswamis of Vrindavan.
Oops, so this is, he used to just carry him with him. He had a big cloth, cloth bag. And would just he have his deity with him all the time.
Very difficult to exhaustively describe the life and pastimes of Lokanath Goswami, who was very dear to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his dear followers, beginning with Srila Rupa and Sri Sanatan, disappeared, Sri Lokanath Goswami could not tolerate the separation. After this, his only purpose in life was to establish the wishes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Sri Lokanath Goswami gave mantra diksha to Sri Narottam Das Thakur. There is no mention in the Shastras that he accepted any other disciples. He was reluctant to accept any disciples, and Narottam Thakur had vowed to take Lokanath as his guru. So he served him in secret by going in the dead of the night to the place where Lokanath would pass stool and urine and cleansing the area very carefully. Seeing Narottam's humility, Lokanath eventually accepted Narottam, seeing his deep humility. Sri Lokanath Goswami, in his ripe old age, while performing his bhajan in Kadiravan in Kayaragam, passed away and entered into the eternal unmanifest pastimes of the Lord. At that place is a kund or Sri Yugal Kund. On the banks of that kund, Sri Lokanath Goswami entered into his samadhi. It is said that when Krishna's Kaviraj Goswami went to Lokanath Goswami and asked his blessings to compile the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Lokanath Goswami gave his blessings, but prohibited Kaviraj Goswami from mentioning his name in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. For fear of violating the order of Lokanath, Kaviraj Goswami has only briefly mentioned him in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Sri Narottam Das Thakur Mahasaya prays as follows at the lotus feet of his Gurudev. O Lokanath, O Gurudev, if you're pleased with me, please keep me in the shelter of your lotus feet and cast your merciful glance upon me. By your mercy, I can find the perfection of inner fulfillment. By your mercy, I can someday meet Sri Chaitanya and Radha Krishna. If you're not merciful to me, then what shall I do? Please just once fulfill my heart's desire. In the three worlds of birth and death, no one is in more need of your mercy. Please give me your mercy and give me a place at your lotus feet. Day and night I sing the qualities and pastimes of Radha and Krishna. Still, the inner aspirations of Narottam for the service of Shri Shri Radha Govinda in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu can only be realized through your grace, O Lokanath Goswami Prabhu. Lokanath Goswami left this world somewhere around 1510 Shaka, which is 1588 to 89 AD, in the month of Ashad, on the 8th day of the dark moon. Lokanath Goswami is known as Leela Manjari in Krishna Leela, which is from the Gaur Gandodesh Dipika, 187.
And this is the Samadhi. Does anybody recognize where this is? Oh, I've already got it there. Radha Gokulandan Temple in Vrindavan. And there's many Samadhis there, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Narottam Das. And it's a little separate from the temple, but in the compound. And you can sit there and do kirtan for hours and hours. Yeah, all these are different Samadhis. So very, very divine place.
So Lokanath Goswami ki Jai.
And this is actually his, then close up to the Samadhi. Great. So wanted to also mention one more pastime once we just digging out the other part, the Bhagavad Gita. One day, Narottam Das Thakur and Lokanath Das Goswami, they were both chanting together. And whilst chanting, they were in the Mangalarti time, early morning, deep in meditation. Yeah. And at that time, a farmer came and he asked for water. And Lokanath Das Goswami didn't say anything, didn't do anything. But Narottam Das Thakur stopped his chanting and he started to give him the water. Let's see if this is going to work. Yeah. And he gave the farmer the water, the farmer went away, and then when they finished his chanting, Lokanath Das Goswami became upset with Narottam Das Thakur. And he said, "You're not fit to live in Vrindavan." And Narottam Das Goswami asked, "Why? What did I do wrong?" He said, "Well, you stopped your worship of Radha Krishna. While you're chanting, you're worshipping Radha Krishna. Why did you stop your worship?" The farmer wanted some water. He's a farmer. He can find water anyway. It's not an emergency. So you shouldn't have stopped. So this was a very instructive point to us. When we're chanting, we try to do it in such a way that we don't get disturbed. So I know one person, Amita Krishna Prabhu, he's actually on the line. We can talk a lot about him because he's an amazing person. And he's there. He makes it clear, don't disturb me while I'm chanting. And he locks the door and make sure that the interruption doesn't take place. So that's actually, it's a very good commitment to make to Krishna that while I'm with you, nobody else is going to disturb me. At least we make that effort. I mean, there may be emergencies, but emergencies are emergencies. They're not everyday situations. Okay. So let me see this. Oh, it's breaking up. Huh? So
I think our internet is just playing up a little bit. It keeps us saying.
I tell you what. Why don't we'll go out and come back in again? It's going to be possibly easier. We'll just come back. Huh?